Hello friends, it's Alexis and welcome to my February Battle of the Books. If you're new here, this is just how I like to do my wrap up. Using the website Bracket Fights, I just upload a picture of the cover of all of the books I read last month, and then the website randomly creates me a bracket, and the books fight it out to determine what my best book of the month was. I always like to start these videos out with a little bit of stats from my reading last month because I'm a nerd and I like to track that kind of stuff. So as a recap, I ended up reading 10 books total. I read 8 physical books and 2 audiobooks. Those physical books added up to 3,396 pages and the audiobooks added up to 18 hours and 54 minutes. And then I've also been tracking my progress of getting my physical TBR down this year. So 9 of the books I read this month did come from my physical TBR. They are books I own, and I got 1 book from the library, and I suck and I bought 5 books that then got added onto my physical TBR. But that is about it for the stats, so let's get right into the bracket fight. Okay, we are starting off strong with our first matchup. On the left, of course, we have Pineapple Street by Jenny Jackson. I did vlog this book, so this one and any other book I have a vlog for will be down in the description in case you missed it. But yeah, this is a book I read for Jante's Inferno, and funny enough, it was actually, I used it for the prompt to read a book that was a 5-star prediction. I was not right. I did not do a good job predicting this one. I settled on a 2-star rating for this book. It was just really not for me. It's not what I was expecting going into it at all. So this one was pitched to me as sort of like rich people drama. We're following this super wealthy family, so I thought it was gonna be full of like juicy gossip and drama and rich people doing bad things. And like, it really wasn't. There was some conflict in this story, but it wasn't what I think of when I think of rich people drama. Like, it wasn't embezzling and fraud and cheating, like the fun, interesting things that like I would want to read about. It was just not entertaining at all. It was actually pretty boring. And then on top of that, the thing I hated the most about this book, and I go on a whole rant in my vlog, but this book was really trying to make these rich people like sympathetic characters. Like, when I pick up a rich people drama book, I want to read about unlikable characters who are purposely written that way. Like, they're bad people and the author and the reader are all aware of it, and we're just watching them do bad things. That is not how this book was written. These characters were written to be likable, and no, you cannot convince me to feel bad for these people when they have this much money and their problems are stupid. So in my opinion, this is one you should skip and not waste your time on, because I can't even think about a positive thing I liked about this book. Like, it was just stupid. Moving on to Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. Of course, this was very highly anticipated. I love the Empyrean series so much, and this one started out a little rocky. I couldn't really get into it. I think part of it was not really remembering who everybody was, but thankfully at the 50% mark, I got in it and I did not stop reading. Like, I basically binged the last 50% of this book in one sitting. I couldn't read fast enough. I had to know what was going to happen next. So final rating for this one, I ended up giving it 4 stars, really just because of the beginning being a slower start, and then the ending, which I don't know if I have the unpopular opinion. I feel like I've seen that everybody loves it, but talking to my in real life friends, like, we all agree that it was kind of dumb. Like, am I alone here? But wasn't that sort of dumb? I don't know. I'm super excited for the next books, obviously. I love these characters. I love this world. I love the dragons. But to end it that way was not my favorite. So, of course, if you don't know about this series, the first one being Fourth Wing, which I feel like everybody knows about at this point. It's a romantasy series about a girl who goes to school to become a dragon rider, and of course she sort of becomes the chosen one, as you usually do when you're the main character in a romantasy story. It's just so good. It's such a fun time. These books are just really easy to get into, very, very addicting. Like, I'm telling you, you will not want to put these down once you're into them, and yeah. So, for all those reasons and many more, obviously Onyx Storm is going to be our winner for this round, and by Pineapple Street, I cannot wait to never have to think about you again. Okay, moving on to our next matchup. This is going to be really, really hard. Why is this happening so early? So this is a true head-to-head. These are both 5-star reads, and I vlogged both of them. My vlog with Quicksilver in it won't be up before this video, but you can look forward to it in the future. Spoiler for that, I love this book. So starting out on the left, we have Wake Up and Open Your Eyes by Clay McLeod Chapman. This is a horror book. I'm really growing to love Clay McLeod Chapman's writing. This is my third book by him. I believe I've given all of his books 4 or 5 stars, so love that for me to have this new favorite horror author. And this one is very heavy on the social commentary, but also the gore and the ridiculousness and really weird sex scenes. Just be prepared going into this one. This is extreme horror. This has some of the most graphic and gruesome scenes of torture and body horror that I have ever read. Like, think about watching a Terrifier movie. It is that level of disgusting. I loved every second of it, don't get me wrong, but just like, be prepared going in. If you want to hear more thoughts about this book, again, my Jante's Inferno vlog will be linked below. I could just go on and on and on about how much I love this book, which makes this super difficult to be going up against Quicksilver, which I also loved. I have not stopped thinking about it. I am obsessed with it. I cannot wait till the next book. I'm just blown away because something about me, historically, I have never liked fairy books. I've tried to read ACOTAR. I've tried all of the other popular fantasy, romantasy, fairy books, and they're just not for me. I haven't liked them. My magical creature of choice is the vampire, which might have something to do with why I love this one. This book is about a young woman, human, who ends up going to the fairy world. Of course, as you do when you're the main character in a romantasy book, and she meets our guy on the cover here, Kingfisher. You know, falls in love, saves the world, all that stuff. But a super cool aspect of this is these fairies are like sort of related to vampires. They're very vampiric, and I loved that aspect. I also really loved that our main character was an alchemist. I thought that was so fun and so cool, and the side characters in this were incredible. One of my new favorite side characters of all time. Like, no complaints about this book. I'm so blown away. Like, I shouldn't be, right? Because everybody was giving it the best reviews, and that's why I knew I needed to pick it up and see what the hype was about. I'm just so happy I wasn't disappointed, and I get it. I get what the girls are talking about with this one. So, oh my god, this is so hard. I think I'm gonna go with Quicksilver. It hurts. I mean, Wake Up and Open Your Eyes was so good. Like, both of these books have the potential to be on my top books of 2025, like, already. We're only in February, but I gotta go with Quicksilver. I loved it so much. I can't stop thinking about it. Oh my god, again, I just need to stop reading such great books because this makes it really difficult for me. Starting out on the left, we have The Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley, and this is a little bit sci-fi, a little bit romance. I had such a good time reading it. This was actually my first 5-star read of 2025, which is so deserving. Just another book that I have no notes on. Like, perfect book in my opinion. I think everybody could read this one and enjoy it. In this one, we follow a woman who works for the Ministry of Time, specifically in this department where they are studying time travel. And they have successfully brought to the present all of these people from the past. Main character gets paired up with this guy who was in the Navy in the 1800s. He was on the ship The Terror, and they were trying to find a passage through the Arctic or something, you know, history. But it was just so fun. Like, the first half of this book was just like falling in love with these characters as he is getting used to like modern life. Of course, he has a million questions and she is his guide to help him through it all. And then this mystery gets introduced. Like, it was all so interesting and so sweet. And then the ending was so touching. Like, I love this book so much. 5 stars if I didn't say, obviously. And this is going up against The Favorite by Lane Fargo. Another 5-star. This one is another one that I feel like everybody has been reading it and loving it. And this is actually a retelling of Wuthering Heights, but the main characters are professional figure skaters, and I didn't know I needed this book until I read it. This is another one. It is a thick book. I think it's between 400 and 500 pages, and I basically just binged the last 50% because I couldn't put it down. It was so addicting. It is told as if in like a documentary format. So we start out the book and we know that some dramatic thing has happened between our two main characters, Katerina and Heath. But this documentary is kind of looking at like the why of what happened. Like, nobody really knows why they stopped skating so many years ago. So we're getting these chapters from the documentary of people looking back at these events and talking about like being there and what happened and their experience. But then every other chapter, we're getting it directly from Katerina and Heath's perspective of like what really happened and really uncovering the truth. This story is so juicy, so full of drama, athletes sabotaging each other. This has it all. My jaw was seriously on the ground for like half of this book because I couldn't believe what everybody was doing to each other. So this is again a really difficult choice, but I think I loved the favorites a tiny bit more. Like just a tiny bit more. Like if we could have a tie, they would both win, but we can't. So I gotta go with the favorites to move on. Okay, so now of course we do the whole left side first to determine like who our first contender is for number one. So honestly, this is an easy choice. As much as I love both of these books so much, I obviously haven't stopped thinking about Quicksilver, so Quicksilver it is. Oh no. I'm telling you right now, these are my top 1 and 2 books of the month, and it is not fair that they're up against each other on this side because one of these books has to be number 3 now, right? Okay, I'm gonna go with Quicksilver, and let me tell you why. I kind of went into this in my video, but the favorites, I always struggle with this because in the favorites, there are some choices that the characters make that I do not agree with. I would not have done it. I'm like kind of mad at the characters for doing it, but it didn't like affect my enjoyment of the book enough to like dock it a star, you know, if that makes sense. So because I still resent one of the characters in the favorites, well, 2 of the characters in the favorites for something they did, I'm gonna go with Quicksilver because I hold a grudge and I would not be forgiving them as easily as this other person did. So Quicksilver is our first contender for best book of February. All right, moving over to the right side, some more books I vlogged. Flawless would have been in my Jante's Inferno vlog, and A Study in Drowning will be in the Romantasy vlog coming soon. So starting out with Flawless. This is a really beloved cowboy romance series. I knew I had to give it a try because of how much I love Lila Sage's Rebel Blue Ranch series, and it was fine. It wasn't anything special in my opinion. I definitely prefer Done and Dusted and the sequels over this one. I know this series, much like other romance series, does follow different characters, so I might give the next one a try. Like maybe it was just this couple I didn't really vibe with. Once I got into it, I enjoyed it enough. I ended up giving it 3 stars, which to me is a good book. It's just not great, not a new all-time favorite. So this one, of course, is about a young woman named Summer, and her father is the talent agent to this bull rider named Rhett. That's impressive that I can remember both of their names. So yeah, her father's the talent agent. She gets assigned to basically babysit him to repair his image because he's the bad boy in the bull riding industry right now. And of course, they fall in love and all that stuff. Like, it was a fine romance. I enjoyed my time while I was reading it. There were some cringy parts, but I'll usually find that in the romances that I read. So yeah, not too much more to say about that one, but it is going up against A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed, and this one was actually really surprising to me. I feel like I had seen not great reviews about it, which after I finished it and went back to Goodreads, like I don't know where I was seeing that, but I swear in my head I remember somebody saying like this book wasn't good because I loved it so much. I ended up going with a 4-star rating for this. There were definitely some things that I wish had been different, but overall, really solid book. This one is about a university student who is studying architecture, and she applies to help basically redesign this famous author's house now that he has passed away. And she finds out that she is not the only student of this university who has been asked to come stay at his estate and go through his things. There is also a student from the literature college who is going through all of his writing and everything. And they basically have to team up to do some stuff, fight some evil. It was good. It was definitely a cute love story, and once I kind of understood what was going on with the fantastical elements in this, I really enjoyed it. Very surprising, this is also a book about fairies, but the thing about this one is the fairies were like scary in this story. Depictions of terrifying creatures, and I really liked that a lot. Big part of my enjoyment there. But yeah, I think it's pretty clear that I have to go with A Study in Drowning. I really like this story. The writing in this one was gorgeous. All right, and that brings us to our last head-to-head. Cursebound by Sarah L. Arifi was one of my most highly anticipated books of the year. I loved Feybound so much. It was actually my number 2 of my best books of 2024. And sort of sadly, this one did not live up to the hype of the first one, but it was still good. I ended up settling on a 4-star rating. This will also be in my Romantasy-a-thon vlog. It was good. The beginning took a little bit to get into, and it just, I don't know, it didn't really feel like a Feybound book. Like, the first book was so well written, and then with this one, I felt like we kept getting scenes where we were being told what had happened instead of seeing it. Like, instead of reading from the point of view of a character, like going to have a conversation with somebody, it would just pick up the chapter and be like, yeah, she talked to so-and-so yesterday. Here's what they talked about. It was just weird writing. Like, I don't even know how to explain it other than it was off. It did not feel as polished and well written as the first one. Of course, once we got into the story, my enjoyment of it went up. There were some really good plot twists in this, and then the very last reveal, like literally the last sentence of the book, screaming. I cannot wait for book 3. I really, really hope it is as good as Feybound was and we just get a strong finish to this trilogy, which I didn't even know was going to be a trilogy until this book. I thought it was going to be 2 books in the series, which maybe that's part of the problem. Like, I could see maybe if this book had been originally part of like a bigger book and it was going to be the ending of the story, and then maybe the author was told to like split it up into 2 separate books, and that's why there was just weird writing and descriptions throughout part of this. Like, maybe she was rushing to kind of make it longer, like its own book. I don't know. I just read books. I don't write them. I don't know anything about it, but like, I could see that being a thing. So I'm just hoping that the 3rd one just feels better written. And of course, moving on to my last book of the month, Zone 1 by Colson Whitehead. This book is actually a rollover from my January TBR. I ended up getting, it was a horror bingo prompt to read a horror book with a number in the title. So happy I actually got to it. It was fine. It was an apocalypse zombie book, which is not something I've read a lot of. So I did enjoy that it was a little bit different than what I'm used to. And I ended up rating this one 3 stars. It just didn't do anything really special. It's not going to be a book that I'm going to think about all the time, but it was enjoyable while I was reading it. I think the big thing that could have made my enjoyment of the story go up was, like, I say it's a zombie book, but there weren't many scenes with the zombie. They were more like in the background. We were being told they were there. We were being told what happened to the world and why our main character was living the way they were, but there weren't like horrific scenes with the zombies. Like, there were like 1 or 2 scenes where we came face to face with the zombies, but they weren't scary. Like, it was definitely the state of the world that was like the horrific element of this, which is fine. It's just not maybe what I would have preferred to read about. So I think Cursebound is gonna win this one. Okay. Somehow I didn't see this coming, even though like I knew what I just picked. This is so hard. It's really, really, really close because I have like small issues with both of these books, but overall I loved the story and the endings. I think I gotta go with Cursebound. I really love this world. I love these characters and this story we're getting to know, and like I'm so excited for the next one. And I know A Study in Drowning is actually going to be a series, but like I literally don't know why we need another book. I feel like this wrapped up perfectly and would have been like a perfect standalone fantasy book. I was kind of happy where this one ended. So anyways, that means Cursebound is going to be in the running for our best book of February. I mean, obviously, we know who the winner is going to be. I think I knew who the winner was going to be before I even started this. It's going to be Quicksilver. I just can't help myself. I don't know what this author put into these pages. She laced them with something because I'm addicted. This book was such a fun time. I am so happy I decided to read it for Romantasy-a-thon. All right, friends, that is it. That is my best book for February. Honestly, had you asked me before I read it, I would have been so surprised that I love this book so much, but it's just right. I'm obsessed with this book. I want everybody to read it. I've literally recommended it to so many people, but if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to leave me an emoji down in the comments, we have to go with the crossed sword for Quicksilver, obviously. Just lots of talk of forging swords and metal and all that stuff with our main character being an alchemist. Lots of scenes with swords. And please let me know what your favorite book you read in February was. I'm always looking for some new recommendations. But as always, friends, I hope you read a good book today, and I will see you soon in my next one. Bye.